Well, I will say this. At times last year, the games looked easy for R.J. Davis. And R.J. Davis announcing this week that he'll be back for a fifth season with Carolina. And Adam, again, I don't think this was a huge surprise. As time went on, it became apparent that this was the likely end result for R.J. Davis. And there is no other way to present this other than a positive for Carolina. You're getting back a guy who was ACC Player of the Year a season ago, had the best scoring season for a Carolina guard in history last year. He has a chance to become Carolina's all-time leading scorer. He would have to match what he did a season ago as far as points are concerned to do that. But certainly we know he's capable of that. Whether or not he will need to or be asked to score that much next season, it will be a point of discussion for later. But you're getting an accomplished player back, someone who I'm guessing was very frustrated with the final game of the year, so he's going to be motivated, as you would expect him to be. We sat here and talked to him a couple months ago now, and he talked about that motivation of the season. I would expect that would be, even heightened. And so excited to have a veteran, legitimate All-America type of player return. He will be in the conversation in the preseason, for what it's worth, for National Player of the Year. He certainly is a terrific player and a big benefit for Carolina for him to come back.
Yeah, I think chasing two big honors, the all-time scoring record, and got to be in that National Player of the Year conversation, in which case you could see number 4 be retired. So I just can't imagine that this isn't good for Carolina, and I think there were a lot of other schools who would have loved to have had R.J. Davis on their team. So the fact that the Tar Heels have him is an immediate plus. I do think that's a good question of if he scored the exact same number of points next year as he scored this past year, would that be a good thing or a bad thing for Carolina? And right. I think you could make a coherent argument either way, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, on one hand, you've shown that you can achieve some really good things with R.J. Davis being your predominant scorer. I think, at least as of right now, and certainly Carolina's roster is not finalized at this point in time. Nobody's is. There will be, I think, some other scoring options for Carolina. Also, you would hope and expect that Elliot Cadeau and Seth Trimble would both – we sat here and talked to Seth about it a week or so ago. You would hope that their ability to score would be enhanced, that the variety of ways that they are able to score would continue to expand. And so – maybe you don't need R.J. Davis to average 21 points a game or whatever it was that he averaged last season. So, and again, I think that is a discussion much more for once the roster is finalized and once you start to get a feel for how what Carolina's plan of attack will be. I do know this, Adam, you've got, with no other additions, you've got 4 really good guards on Carolina's team in R.J. Davis, who has proven it at an All-America level, Seth Trimble and Elliot Cadeau, who have proven it not as much as R.J. has, but have certainly proven that they are capable of playing high-level basketball in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And you have one of the best recruits in the nation in Ian Jackson coming in, who we don't know what he's going to do as a Tar Heel, but we certainly know he comes in with a big reputation and has a lot to his game. So you've got 4 guys right there that are all very, very talented and capable players.
Yeah, there's no question where the strength of next year's Carolina team is as of right this moment.
Right.
The good news is right this moment is not when you play the games, and as we've seen, players are coming and going all the time. So hopefully still some more news to come Carolina's way over the next few weeks.
Adam, the only I say only as if it isn't significant, the only other piece of basketball roster news as of the time that Adam and I are recording this was the addition of Cade Tyson out of the transfer portal for the Tar Heels, brother of Hunter Tyson, who was a very good player for Clemson for several years, a North Carolina native, had gone and played at Belmont the last 2 seasons and entered the transfer portal after this past year and was a highly sought-after player, primarily because he shot nearly 50% from 3 and he's 6'7". I mean, so, Adam, that's an attractive combination, a guy that we've seen under Hubert Davis. Not that Carolina is living or dying by the three-pointer, because I don't think that's true. There were times in the 2022 season, or excuse me, the 23 season, that was the case, but we all remember all of that. But I do think Carolina's modernized its offensive attack a little bit, and that, just in the game of basketball, includes being able to shoot from the outside more than 20 years ago. So when you have a guy at that size who can shoot like that, period, but when he can shoot like that at that size, that's attractive.
Yeah, I think the primary questions are going to be level of competition, as you would expect that they would be if you're coming from Belmont. Both who you're shooting over when you shot that almost 50%, and then also who you're going to go guard on the other end of the court.
Sure.
Because the caliber of player that he is likely to be defending this coming season is going to be different than it was at Belmont. But I think what makes you feel pretty good about it is I do think Hubert Davis and his staff have gotten pretty good at this portal thing and have a pretty well-rounded view on what fits the best. And from all appearances, Cade Tyson was one that they immediately locked onto and said that is a player who will fit both on the court and off the court at Carolina and in that top 1 or 2 targets that the Tar Heels are interested in. And anytime you get someone who you've prioritized like that, I think you have to feel that is going to be a very good fit as a player.
Your point about, and I am not saying this in suggesting that Cade Tyson is not a good defender. I don't know. But I just think your point is a valid one of we've seen it so much in basketball here the last, I'll say 3 or 4 years in particular, of trying to find the weak spot defensively on the other team. I mean, it's really become like the NBA, right? That's why you see so many ball screens. I mean, that's why you see all of this, is because you're trying to isolate the weakest defender on the other team and attack him. And so, yes, Kate, there will be questions with him and with everybody in that same way. And it's just hard to be a one-way player at this point and be able to play a ton at this level. Yes?
Especially if you're on a team that has a smaller backcourt.
Yeah.
Which it looks like Carolina may.
And again, this is all, we are in no way suggesting Cade Tyson's a poor defender. This is just a general topic.
Even if he's the worst defender Carolina's ever had, if he shoots 50% for 3, you can give up some buckets on the other end and nobody cares because you're outscoring him on the other end.
Right. So, felt like some positive steps for the Tar Heels. Don't think that they feel like they're done, but it is worth noting also, Adam, that the transfer portal has closed. And so, if that closed on, what was it, Thursday or Wednesday night, I think, May 1st. Yeah, so like 11:59 or something on Wednesday night was the official close. So you have to be in at this point if you're going in. The only other note I would bring up as far as that is concerned, Adam, is that the Tar Heels didn't have much turnover at all. James Okonkwo transferred, and he has since committed to Akron. We know Seth Trimble's story. He sat here and told us he went in and then came back out of the portal back to the Tar Heels, and that's it. The only other attrition that Carolina had were some guys who were out of eligibility, and Baycott, Ryan, and Wojcik, and then Harrison Ingram, who elected to go to the NBA draft. He has kept his availability of college eligibility, but I think it's fair to say the anticipation is that Harrison Ingram will stay in the draft. And so that is still some turnover, but it's more, I guess, natural turnover, if you will. And that doesn't mean anything because Carolina last year had, 6 guys, I think, going to the transfer portal? We just saw Duke had 0 guys go in last season and had 7 go in this year. So it doesn't mean anything one way or the other than I do think that the guys who were here enjoyed being here and felt like that Carolina had the chance to do something.
Kind of like with Brian Cowboys in women's tennis. Like they win at a very high level and the players don't leave. You hope that's where you can be with basketball. It's just you're going to be playing teams that basically look nothing like what they look like this past year. So you don't get any points on the scoreboard for the fact that you're retaining players. You still need them to go out and get better. And I think that's the goal starting this week moving forward.
Adam, anything else on the basketball side of things as far as the Tar Heels are concerned?
No.